Welcome to another episode, Middle Ground with JLE, L.L.C, where we treat you like family. That is the theme song, Detroit Love, of my first album, the JLE Experience. I own the music and copyright. Don't mute nothing Facebook. I always got to say that. We got another amazing guest for you in this season 12. We have the executive director and co-founder of the Triangle Society, Monique Bryant. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you for doing it.
No problem.
This will be another fun one. So, first question, what led you to this path?
Well, first of all, I will say that I am a native Detroiter, born and raised here. I'm a parent of two children, son Nolan, 22, and my daughter Lauren is 15. So, being a parent and being an involved parent has led me to where I am today, along with being a Cass Tech alumna class of 1986. And catalyzing off of that is what prompted me to co found and become the executive director for the Triangle Society.
Now, since you jump right to that, what is it?
So, the Triangle Society is a nonprofit organization. We're private. We started with 6 board members. There are currently 5. And it started with myself and my classmate, Miss Harlan, also known as Terry Berry. We were involved in some alumni activities, and we found that there was a great need of assistance for students at our alma mater. And just in a conversation, we decided that we were going to create a program to assist. And as we did more work, we figured out it's like, hey, this is a little bit more than what we anticipated on just showing up a day here, a day there. And we looked at each other and we said, hey, are we ready to form a nonprofit? And from there, we recruited additional members, and here we are 7 years later.
Okay. Now, what is the benefits of a nonprofit?
So the benefits mainly for us is the ability to fundraise. Um, we do have a license through the state of Michigan, and so that allows you to generally raise funds. And we also receive donations from other organizations and individuals. So that's the main thing. We could have remained just a local organization, if you will.
Okay.
But that allowed us to expand. So it took us about a year, maybe 8 months to a year, going through the process of getting a determination for the nonprofit status.
Now, what do you mean by determination? What does that mean to someone that don't know?
So basically, in every state, there are different rules to start a nonprofit.
Okay.
We started with the getting the assumed name, and the Triangle Society is really named from the triangular piece of land that was donated by Lewis Cass. And our yearbook is called the Triangle Society. So that is how we got our name. From doing a business as assumed name, we then started to do the paperwork, and there are fees definitely for the federal, state level,
Mm-hmm.
and those we kind of as a board provided those startup funds. And once we were able to receive our letter, which was like in September 2017, and we started the process back in May of 2016. So it was readily a quick startup where we didn't do it ourselves. We actually used a company, and then there was creating bylaws and all of those things that, as a small organization, everybody just pitches in and does the work. So that's what has led us here today.
Okay, I'm trying to be very professional. Excuse all that cat stuff I'm hearing. When I graduate from high school, like she's gonna keep throwing that cats up there, right?
Well, you know what?
You
Let
know
me
what?
tell you,
That's what we
I
doing today.
I am a diehard Detroiter. We currently now have 106 schools, but before there was a elementary, middle school, and a high school in every neighborhood.
Yes.
My
Yeah.
mom and all her siblings are Chadsey graduates. My
Okay.
dad my dad went to Northwestern, that still exists, and I do a lot of work over there and working with their alumni association. So I mean, Cass, we've been around since 1907. And there, I believe, is a different attitude because we were one of the first examination schools. So that kind of sets you apart going to school outside of your neighborhood. But
Hmm.
for sure, I believe that every single high school has a legacy. And as I have been studying the legacy of Cass Tech, it has exposed me to other high schools and the great alumni and the great things that we have done professionally. So by no means, and actually, I will say Central is one of the original high schools. So very rich legacy over there at Central. So, I think everyone should be proud of the education that they've received.
Yeah, we're gonna talk a little smack right now because a lot of people cast tech got a little air about themselves, like, oh yes, we're cast technicians.
And I believe that's a
Went in white, you know.
I believe
Like,
that's a
okay.
misconception because
Mm,
everyone
okay.
should be proud of their legacy. And that's no different from, in your neighborhood when you were, say, like the household, that was the house on the block that everyone went to, every kid that grew up
Hmm.
in that family. So it's kind of the same thing. And, again, it's a misconception. Uh, People do say you're the only high school that reps like a class year. Most people, beyond 10 years or so, they're kind of silent about it. We go to functions and we're all family, but you're repping your senior class year to the fullest. So that is something that is unique about the Cass Tech history.
Yeah, I can't say even though Cooley's closed with social media back, I think 2010 was the first year of the Cooley Alumni Weekend, like second weekend in July. That's been a thing ever since. And
I know,
God
and
bless him, man. Someone dressed like the Cardinal at the picnic. I'm
see,
like, you gotta be hot in that thing, boy, but respect.
those are the things that are so exciting. And to that point, I mean, Mike Illich is a Cooley alumni. And when you think about
I did not know that.
see, there you
All
go.
right, so I knew that.
And,
Okay,
and
good learning.
when you look at Little Caesars, arena, the pizza franchise, everything that he and his family have done for the city of Detroit. When I discovered that he was a Cooley Cardinal, I mean, I just thought that was the coolest thing. And I don't think that we identify enough with our local, CEOs and individuals who work in corporate America and in our city that are here, by way of an education they received in
Now,
Detroit Public
now,
Schools.
fun fact for some people in Metro Detroit: when I was on the yearbook staff for Class '96, we started looking at the old 1970 boys. A lot of Caucasian Americans went to these schools because they was in the city of Detroit. Blew out of the
Absolutely.
mind. Like, what? Why the black people? Yeah, I'm just saying, like, they really went here, like, this ain't no fake news, right? This ain't no conspiracy book. Y'all just throw out here, like, no. Back in the day, it was a very diverse crowd of Detroit. Like, oh,
Well,
okay.
yes, and I think our current schools are reflective of our population now, which
Mm-hmm.
we classify it as urban. But
Mm-hmm.
when I tell you, Lyndon Berg, his mom was a science teacher at Cass. I mean,
Okay.
I would tell anyone, go dig out those yearbooks. Detroit Historical Society. I do a lot of research over there.
Okay.
You will find out some very cool things about every school because it was unique to the neighborhood in which
Hmm.
that school was. And so this is really the cornerstone of the mission of the Triangle Society, to preserve the legacy of Cass Tech and to fund its excellence. And so, in funding the excellence, we discovered, and here's a misconception number two, that
Hmm.
because we have a lot of high profile alumni, that Cass has all this money. And that is very untrue, to a point where we, back years ago, we had up to like 5,000 students. We were graduating two classes per year
Okay.
in Cass Tech's heyday, June and January and June. In my class, there were probably roughly about 1,200 students that entered in the ninth grade, and
Okay.
about 850 that
Ah.
graduated. Currently, today, in our fourth building, we have an average of 2,500 students,
Woo.
and about 550 graduate every year. And so the need is so diverse and so great. And when you think about why are public schools not funded, and you hear a lot about um, you know underfunding, but it's
Hmm.
about what you do with the funding as well. So at Cass, obviously, we have 23 sports teams, 13 sports. We just started in the last 5 years a boys and girls lacrosse team, wrestling, soccer. And this is really kind of what I think should be happening at other schools.
Hmm.
But it takes parents, it takes alumni, and a lot of these things were started from parents, like myself. My son played chess. He attended,
Nice.
yes, he attended Washington Parks Academy, which is a Cornerstone charter school, but Cornerstone was private school. We had the largest chess team over there with about 80 to 120 kids playing. And that is really how I got my start of becoming a advocate uh, for education. My son went on to play from second grade all the way through middle school, and he played at Frederick Douglass Academy, which I was a PTA president over there
Okay.
in 2016, 2017. And we brought back the chess team. We actually recruited students. Uh,
Nice.
Kevin Fight, who is he's the founder of the Detroit City Chess Club, worked with getting a chess coach over there. And those players that he played with at Washington Parks, a lot of them ended up over at Cass Tech. Um, and so the passion is always to help fund and provide resources and opportunities in our non-traditional sports and academic settings. And
Okay.
so that is where my passion really lies, because someone did it for me. I was
Hmm.
into a lot of different things, but just the opportunities coming from a single parent home.
Hmm.
Uh, at Cass, I was involved in gymnastics, which never
Nice.
never was a real sport that I was introduced until I got to Cass. And you know, by the time that you're 14, you're actually an old person in
Yeah, for
gymnastics.
gymnastics, you gotta start
You usually start
early.
at 5 or 6. But what I was able to do from the 4 years that I participated, as a parent, I started a after school program at Washington Parks, where I was teaching kids floor exercise. And along with several of my classmates who their kids attended, we
Hmm.
started a program. And to my amazement, my kids both gravitated towards that. My son I taught him how to flip around. And then my daughter, who is now a Cast Tech cheerleader, worked with her starting at 5. She was a hip hop dancer over at Magic Touch. And I also work with the kids and help as an assistant coach. So those things that just, I learned those 4 years allowed me to share those things with other kids in my kids' school and in my community. And so that is why we work so passionately at the Triangles over at the Triangle Society, because kids, when they're exposed to things and it makes school fun, it gives them a different insight as to what they could really become.
That's true.
And those things are important. And I'm sure you can reflect back in your elementary school days and middle school days. It was those unique things that your teachers and community members came to give you at school. Remember, we would have the days where you visit. I forget what it's called. It's escaping me now, but like career day. And you learn about different careers that people were involved in. And it just opened your eyes to what you could do and what you could become. And I think that is so important. And just because funding isn't there, a traditional funding, and I say that as a parent at a public school, at a charter school, and private schools, I always had to fundraise. Even paying tuition, I was selling candy bars and doing other things. So there's always an additional out-of-pocket cost. But, I feel that when we work in strength in numbers is what we can accomplish. So the strength in numbers that I've been able to, as an uh, executive director, to tap into my community of alumni and parents and those people that are in the community members. They're always willing to support students, but people have got to realize you got to do the work. You can't say, "Oh, I wish I could do this. I wish I could do that." You can do it.
That's true.
It's not something that is overwhelming, which is why I'm so happy that people like you have a venue and an avenue for those like myself to share the story and to encourage others, because I had seen it done before, and so that was what encouraged me to say, hey, let's do this. Not to say that there won't be obstacles, but you you can overcome those obstacles, definitely.
Amen. And shout out to man Franklin, support of the show from Liberia watching. Appreciate it. I get some merchandise. He be rocking down Liberia, so we worldwide these streets.
And listen, the Triangle Society is trying to be worldwide because we have worldwide alumni from Cast Tech. So we're always looking to share our work in every space that we can.
Yeah, I'm gonna get that knowledge frame for myself. I gotta utilize all this fundraiser. I need help.
Well, fundraising could be very scary. Um, my bachelor's degree is in business administration, and my specialty was in marketing and advertising. And really,
Okay, management. Okay,
that's what my role originally I anticipated it as being with the Triangle Society. I wanted to market and I wanted to fundraise. Miss Berry, she's the chief operating officer. We both have experience as entrepreneurs. And so she has a real great grasp on that part. The part for me in the marketing was like, okay, you've got to network, you've got to get out and meet people. And I
Mm-hmm.
love talking. And so as we moved through the fundraising process, and it's like, okay,
Mm-hmm.
now how do we share our story? Now we got to get out there and actually meet people, which is how I transitioned into the role of executive director. And so we both kind of wear a lot of hats. Our
Mm-hmm.
additional board members, they wear a lot of hats as well. But the fundraising for me is my first love. Uh,
Okay.
I think the scariest thing is asking people for money, and them saying no. So just imagine when you ask someone in your family or friend, you say, "Can I borrow $20?" And the first thing you think is, "I'm not going to loan anything that I can't, give
Yeah.
and don't get back." So when I'm fundraising, I'm not asking people to give, $20 or $50 for something.
Mm.
They're actually investing and sowing seeds into the students that I'm asking the support from. So, the tangible thing is for me and for others to see the fruit of the labor that we do.
It's a good
So when
cause for the kids.
Yes. So when we are able to stand, in the stands and we see kids winning championships, from all the
Absolutely.
sports that we've supported, from buying uniforms,
Mm-hmm.
one bus at a time, when we pay $9,000 for a bus for our football team to go out of state and compete. And people say, well, what would you be doing that for? Because that gives them the opportunity to uh,
Exposure.
meet other students, to be
Mm-hmm.
very competitive. Cass has won 3 state championships, right? We have numerous NFL players currently in the NFL, and we are still playing on grass, not
Mm.
turf. So
Yeah, that turf is.
these are things that kids are actually in this day and age in 2024 competing. Where when I was in school, we didn't have an athletic field. They were going over to Mackenzie's field to play.
Okay.
So fast forward almost 40 years, we're just at the point that we have a football field, but we don't have all of the things that we need. And students, it's not just football, it's soccer and it's lacrosse now. So we have 6 additional teams all sharing a grass football field,
Okay.
practically 8 months out the school year. So our biggest win has been for the Triangle Society. Last year, we were involved in supporting the negotiations and the District Detroit, as I just mentioned, the Illich family. So they are now going into their second phase of building into Midtown. And
Okay.
so when we talk about big business here, a lot of times they ask for um, tax breaks to build. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's an ordinance and city council language that there's benefits that have to happen within the neighborhood that in which they're building. So the Triangle Society got involved in attending those meetings,
Mm-hmm.
and we advocated for Cass Tech to have a benefit. And that benefit came in the amount of $1 million for our athletic facilities. So that $1 million was donated to the Detroit Public Schools Foundation.
Okay.
And so it's attached to 2 projects that are being built. So there will be $500,000 donated. And those funds are earmarked specifically for Cass Tech. So my next role as a executive director will be to make sure that those funds are allocated. Um,
So
and
need to
and
go.
and our thought was is that we have to have an expansion of our athletic field to support the teams that we have. And so though that is one area that we have really worked hard,
Mhm.
along with our music program, performing arts and music. We have harp and vocal, which is an ensemble that's been around. They'll be celebrating 100 years,
Wow.
2006. We're the only school in Detroit public schools to have it. We're probably one of three nationally. And I could just go on and on about the things.
Yeah,
The
I see
one,
that marketing coming out. All that Cash Tech state titles. We go
you
out of
know what?
state.
But
We out here doing a little something,
it's
something.
the
I hear you, I
it's
hear
the it's the pride for me to be able to assist these students to participate.
And that's
You
what I
know,
was thinking the opportunity though. That's definitely
Harp and Vocal in 2017, we first got involved with them. We wrote a grant that supplied the bus for them to go to New York to participate in a World Strides
okay.
competition, in which they swept the competition. Last year, they went to Chicago. They won a bid and they're headed to New York this year. And so it costs $40,000 for them to attend. And what we've done, we've been able to do through donations generously provided by Evra Cassimy, who's the former WDIV news anchor. He raised over 3 years, like $55,000 for the Triangle Society.
Wow.
So with that, we were able to buy performance wear for our groups. Primarily, the Triangle Society focused on harp and vocal because they are a legacy group. Miss Berry is also a harp and vocal girl. And so
Mhm.
that was very important to her. And we are now looking to send them there. We raised and through donations and a grant, $20,000. That's half the cost that
Awesome.
that is sending them there, and we're hoping that they're going to sweep this competition. So, you know, those are my points of pride, but
I
um,
hear
but also
you.
with that pride, I've transitioned into I ran for school board in 2022. I was never in my wildest dreams did I ever think I would be running for any type of political office. But as I've managed to transition into a space where people actually reach out to or have reached out to me and say, hey, how did you buy $12,000 sousaphones for your marching band? Well, it was through the generosity of Evra Cassimy, but it was also the engagement um, with a community member, and I'm like, maybe I have something to this.
Yeah, I mean you running
Maybe
again now.
right. So
That
the
plus.
first time was 4 seats. I came in sixth place out of 18 individuals. I garnered over 26,000 votes. Uh, the highest vote getters were one new person, and the other five were incumbents. And these are individuals that I have stood before advocating on the behalf of Cass Tech and Frederick Douglass and CMA, Communications Media Arts, where my son eventually graduated from. Um, but
Mhm.
advocating for the needs of funding and policy. So I think that, where I am now, I'm glad I didn't win a seat that
Mhm.
first time around, because what I know now and my experiences.
So what's the agenda if you win this time?
So my agenda when I win, because I'm always speaking prophetically and
Mm-hmm.
speaking things into
Right.
existence.
When
And
you
my
in.
mom was the first person that told me, she said, you're going to be in administration and education. And I could not foresee that. And it was just merely me going to a parent meeting. They needed a secretary. The principal said, do we have any nominations from the floor? And I raised my hand. And that was the
Okay.
same thing with running for the board. We had just come out of COVID. When we think about the main problem here in Detroit is not funding. It never has been funding. We think, oh, students get, at that point they were getting like $9,000 per student from the state of Michigan. But there
Mm-hmm.
are federal funds because we are a urban um, district. There
Okay.
are federal funds that are known as Title I funding. So when I look at the things that students don't have now, like when you and I were in school, there was busing,
Yeah.
there was free lunch.
Yep.
We had books. Teachers were making pretty good salaries.
Yep.
All
That
those things,
Cadillac.
all those things went away about 30 years ago. And as you know, we were under emergency management. And so coming out of that in
Mm-hmm.
2016, when we had a board that was elected to serve 7 individuals, I started to look at, okay, I need to invest. So I brought my son back, well,
Mm-hmm.
not back into the district. I said, I've got to, have some skin in the game. So 2016, 2017, he came in as a ninth grader. And I started to get very active. And I started to realize, okay, what the change that myself and other parents can do
Mm-hmm.
is policy. And that's no different from when we talk about the president or when
Yeah.
we talk about
Always
senators
policy.
or city council, it's
Mm-hmm.
policy. And what I see now is 7 members that have not created policies that have substantially uh, been able to fund our schools.
Okay.
The role of board members is to hire a superintendent, in which we've had one in place now for 7 years. And we've been post COVID going into 4 years. And we came out of COVID with the most money that you will ever imagine. Okay.
Okay.
That should have been the catalyst for us to get on board with overcoming the challenges that existed before COVID, which was the reading levels
Yeah.
very low, math achievement, the fact that our students are struggling. So we've squandered a lot of our COVID money in my estimation. Um, Back when DPS, Detroit Public Schools, existed, we had our own cleaning staff. We had
Yeah. They did
counselors.
before emergency
We had
management.
lunches, hot lunches prepared in our schools. All those things were done away with. We are now
Really?
dealing with, yes, yes.
No hot lunch at the school.
So we have hot lunches, but guess what? We have vendors that prepare the lunches off site. And there were
Wow.
some of the schools, they were brought on to site. They're heated
Interesting.
up, So it's nothing like those lunch ladies that I could remember
Yeah,
with
with the pizza and all that good stuff.
the
You
hairnets
got
that were preparing the
yeah.
hot lunches with the steam tables.
Yep.
You know, one of my
Remember
favorite
that?
one of my favorite meals was the spaghetti.
Yeah.
But
I know the spaghetti.
I can tell you, so universal lunch is free in Detroit Public Schools Community District. My daughter is a sophomore at Cass Tech. I make her lunch every day. That's a free lunch that she is entitled to every day. But she has like a 5th hour lunch. Lunch
Mm,
starts at Cass like about 9 o'clock. There are 5 lunch periods. So she's like
okay.
fourth. So by the time, you trickle on during the day, it's not appetizing. We don't have a real say, parental, student wise, as to what we're having on the lunch menu. And and
Mm,
and to be fair, that's happening in charter schools as well, uh,
okay.
because I was a charter parent. But when I look at a school such as Cass Tech with 2,500 kids, and I say the problems that we have over here, I know those problems are through the entire district.
Got you.
We have a cleaning company that we're supposed to have 25 people staff to clean a 6th floor school that's open 7 days a week because we have activities on the weekend. We're
Mm,
working with a crew of 7 individuals. Post COVID now, when we're talking about everything,
wow.
everything should still be wiped down and clean. 7 individuals. We
That's a lot of
probably,
square footage.
yes, we probably have 3 to 4 secretaries when we need 6 in the school. When
Wow.
we talk about another thing that the Triangle Society does is beautification. So we have companies that are contracted to come out and cut grass, right?
Mm-hmm.
They don't always, who's checking on that company to make sure they're providing weed killer? Because we have on our south side like 6, 7 planter boxes that were overgrowing with weeds. So
Oh
the
no.
Triangle Society, since 2017, has been maintaining those boxes and around the front and the north side
Wow.
through donations of mosh. Myself, my kids, and I, and other volunteers go out, mosh, clean, pick up trash. So these are things that I not only have done at Cass, but the schools that my kids have attended. So when we talk about policy and funding, going
Yeah.
back to that,
Come make you think.
having having a policy that makes those vendors, if we're going to have vendors, accountable. So my question next month, at the board meeting, will be, okay, if this contractor is getting paid XYZ dollars to staff 25 people, what happens to that contractor when they are found not to be providing the service to the maximum or at least the minimum level? Do they refund money back?
Good point.
What do they do? And
Has to be
so
building.
a lot of that, as it relates to contractors, is policies. Do we give contracts to Detroit based businesses, black ownership?
Good
And
question.
I learned that from going down to the city council. When we started talking about this COVID money and giving city contracts, in this phase, we have to make sure that our students are getting the best that
Mm-hmm.
our money can buy. You know, we
Makes
have
sense.
bus contracts. Uh, you hear oftentimes that have been in the news, kids left on a bus, dropped
Yeah.
off,
I
dropped off
see.
at the wrong place, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
and there are some things that can be done with that, and it stems all from being involved,
Yeah.
being being
I should
uh,
go expected.
being present at board meetings, being present at our PTA, parent teacher organizations,
We
uh,
got you.
SAC, school advisory committees. Every school should have one. The very first meeting I went to with our superintendent, the Blueprint 2020, talked about transparency and parental involvement. And immediately I was like, hey, this is some of the things that I'm already doing. But
Huh?
it hasn't been done to the best of the ability of the money that we have earmarked for uh, school and community engagement. So that's the important piece for me,
Got
to
you.
engage parents, engage teachers, because teachers, we put a lot of pressure on them to do a
They
lot.
learned that COVID. That ain't just them. Some of your kids
Exactly.
are bad and need some training so they can teach them.
But we need that support and advocacy
Mm-hmm.
for our parents. You can't expect parents to be great parents when you have parents that were attending Detroit public schools from through the 90s up until now, where education, the dropout rate was high. You have a lot of parents who are parenting now that can't read, that can't help with math. You
That's
you
crazy.
you don't have school books, right? So kids are being, even this was before COVID, there weren't school books in
Yeah,
classes.
everything moved to the
Right.
tablet type teaching.
So if my student comes home and says, "Can you help me with my math?" Okay, my thing is, I yes, I have a high school diploma, I have degrees, but I can't remember the third grade how I teach you the steps. If I had a book, I could probably open it up and you know how they give you the examples. I'm like, oh, okay,
Now
this
that
is how.
PIMDAS.
Now they're telling parents, go on iReady, go on Google Docs and learn it. I don't have time as a parent. I'm a single parent. I'm
Wow.
working. I'm trying to advocate. So I got to take
Mm-hmm.
a refresher to show my student how to work. Um, that is what a lot of parents are struggling with. Everyday issues, just like being able to pay rent, being able
Yeah,
to keep your utilities on. I have been a parent that have experienced every single facet that current parents are experiencing. We talk about homelessness. It's hard for parents to
that's the
function
thing.
and there's different levels of homelessness. Okay, so there are people that are in shelters literally or living out of their homes. I've had a period of homelessness where I transitioned from my legacy home that my grandparents owned to where I live now. So briefly, I was staying with my mom, but that's homelessness if
Yeah,
you
it ain't
know
yours. Right.
on a smaller scale. I've been blessed to always have transportation. That is how I was able to transport my students who lived 30 miles outside of the city. My daughter attended Washington Park. I mean, my son Parks, Washington Parks Academy. My daughter West Village Academy in Dearborn. But these were the things that I was doing to try and secure a great education. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of parents, and I know this
Mm-hmm.
because I've done ride share. I do transportation. I pick up kids and transport them outside of the district. They live in the city of Detroit, but they aren't attending Detroit public schools because parents just don't trust the schools. And so those kids, charter schools aren't that much better because they actually get less funding than Detroit public schools.
Yeah.
Less funding. But the fact that they have less red tape, I can see, the principal and who sometimes the CEO of the school, is more accessible. I have more stake and say in what's going on at the school.
That's
Those
how work that need to be done
are
to get
lots
better.
of work. But you know what? I'm willing to roll up my sleeves and do the work that has to be done. But we have been in a situation for 7 years and we're stagnant. When you tell me that we've grown 2 to 3% in reading or math proficiency.
No,
I'm
we ain't
like,
better than that.
that's crazy. We have been at
Been
about
for years in Detroit with the reading and math.
between 48,000 and 50,000 students. Now, I've been in the district, a district parent, for 7 years. That is unacceptable. We have almost 100,000 students or school age kids living in the city of Detroit, and only half of them go to school. See, someone once
No.
told me numbers don't lie, people do. So the lie is that we don't have the money to educate our students. That's a lie, because it's probably $20,000 to $23,000 per student in this district that you're getting to educate them. It's a lie that we can't afford to pay teachers. We With that COVID money, teachers got a pay increase, but this is right at the year I ran in 2022. In 2023, the superintendent then turned around and cut the budget. So we gave teachers more money, but you cut the budget. So now we had less paraprofessionals. We had
I
less
remember
dean
hearing
of
about
students.
that.
We
People
had
moving.
less dean of students. How can you tell me you're going to pay teachers more money, but now they don't have support staff? It just doesn't make any
And
sense.
classrooms need
You
to
know,
drop to really
and
get
and
get
the
the
and
attention.
the absolute worst thing for me is that you have a board of 7 people that thinks it's okay for the superintendent of Detroit Public Schools Community District to have school age children that do not attend school in this district.
Now you want everybody to stay in Detroit. You get a good education in your city. Not
Listen, I just
that's the
told you
money transfer it out.
I just told you at the onset of our conversation, or during, that I had skin in the game, was not a parent in this district, but brought my child into the district.
Mm-hmm.
His children probably attended 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure. When he first got here, they were enrolled. He has 4 children. One has since graduated. I believe, and nobody talks about it because it's taboo, but his children are not students here in this district. This superintendent makes over $300,000 a year plus bonuses. That's more than the city, anybody who works in this city, mayor, our governor, more than the president.
No, president made 400 some thousand.
Well, when you factor in his salary and bonuses, okay, he's probably making more. He's had an extension of a contract once before his contract was even up, with no results. And we're now coming up to where we have 3 seats that will come up, and we need 3 new board members.
So when you get a spot, you're gonna be that catalyst to help get stuff we need.
Absolutely. And I'm, rooting for others who have done the work, who have done the research, and that has proven. Because the other problem is we don't have a primary. It's just a general election. So when you have, like, there were like 40 plus people that ran in the first election. When I asked myself, how did I vote for the 7 people? I probably just randomly picked names based on names that I had heard or name recognition. We got to cut that out. This time around, we need to definitely ask ourselves,
research. True.
Let's do some research. Those incumbents, in 22, we had forums. We didn't have debates. I listened to 5 of the incumbents or previous board members, and this is what their platform was. They said, I want to be back on the board because I want to finish what we have started. We meaning them and the superintendent, right?
Okay.
So I said, what we've started, right? They have been true to their promise because they got reelected on the board and they went right back to cutting the budget in 2023. They
So
went right back to everything that they were doing, outsourcing everything. We had $700 million that they allocated for 5 new schools. 5 new schools. That's money that's just sitting. That's just sitting.
schools ain't built.
No. So
Oh.
Cody, Pershing, there are 5 schools. And trust me, we do need money
Yeah, schools
in
need
our
the upkeep. I remember Kwame was working on that years
right
back.
in our infrastructure. Our school buildings are old. But
Yeah.
listen, what makes you think that enrollment that's holding at 50,000, spending that 700 million, how many new students are going to enroll in those 5 schools? Because as long as we keep the enrollment at or below where we're at, we're not bringing any money into this district. We're
Now we
locked in.
need more kids.
Right. The more students we have, the more money we get per
Yeah.
student. It's not a rocket science for math. We have to, and this is in our city council, our mayor, our governor, and our legislature have done a phenomenal job for bringing in money to increase the per pupil allotment.
Yeah.
My hat's off to Governor who
Whitmer.
has really been a strong advocate, and I work on the state level. I attend meetings, I do trainings, so I'm watching what's going on. The money is there. What's happening is what's going on locally. And when you keep parents in the dark and you keep community in the dark, that is how you're able to lock the money. And I don't want to say be brutal, but the money is disappearing somewhere. And it was disappearing when it was DPS. I mean, we can all remember the stories where there was a warehouse full of books.
Yep.
Oh,
You got to show.
a lot of misallocation. And the thing I found that was really so dynamic, when I heard those stories about principals stealing money, and some principals went to
I remember I
jail.
ain't going to school.
Right. So now I reflect on that because the district launched a investigation through the Inspector General's office on the Triangle Society due to a complaint that was never, disclosed or substantiated. There was nothing that we were doing wrong other than directly, supporting students for the funds. But I thought, how many of those people were unfairly targeted for investigations that were, say, misappropriation of funds? If you get gift cards, right, and say you may see a student who needs a uniform, right, and you give them a gift card. If you didn't do due diligence to fill out the paperwork, somebody come back and say, okay, you're using that at your personal discretion.
They want a uniform to.
Right. You haven't really, have you stole money? We had a student who had experienced a fire at home. And this was right in 2020 during COVID. Her family was displaced. Her grandparents lived in Ohio, so their family was all split up. So she was in Ohio. We were able to, through a donation through Meyer, gift her a $500 donation.
Okay.
We made sure that she had a laptop. We made sure that she had clothing, those necessities that she needed. And in hindsight, I was thinking like, hmm, where did this, this complaint come from? Because everything that we have done has been above board, has been approved by our board, but people can just make things up. And it's always the people who point the fingers at others for doing wrong. But if you open their closet, if you check the skeletons in their closet, the diffusion of directing the attention somewhere else when really they're the person doing
Yeah.
everything that's not aligned with the mission. My mission is always to provide resources and opportunities, whether that be it in my position as executive director of the
Mm-hmm.
Triangle Society, my aspirations to be a board member on DPSCD's board,
Mm-hmm.
and in my community. I mean, on my block, you know, being the block captain, being with it, but
Whatever it needs.
it
Whatever it
doesn't take
needs.
a title going to my mission to do what God
Needs
has
to be done.
ordained for me, which is to shine a light and be a beacon of support for those who need it. And isn't that what Jesus did? He everywhere he
Yeah,
went,
he
he
did.
he was able to, just speak a word, make water into wine, you know, just bless people. You're healed. And that those are the things I think, I try to have every day. My prayer is
And I believe you'll be great with
when,
it.
when I come outside, I want to be a blessing to someone. I want to be a blessing. And
You
and
definitely are. You know a lot of
I
great stuff.
thank you. And I try to do that. And not just with my students. Anyone who's doing anything that is a mission and that there is their purpose, whatever I can do to support them, whether it be my own donation to their organization or
Mm-hmm.
sowing a seed into what they're doing, sharing information, knowledge, volunteering. That's what I do because that's what grows our network. And when the more people that we have working, the more we can do to help people, to lift
All
one another out of the circumstances that we're in. It's
right.
not what you have, it's what you're willing to share. What you're
Right.
willing to share.
Now
And
we reached the part where you
I am
about the
so
program.
yes, I am so, excited to now be connected with the JLE experience and family because together we're going to be able to grow uh, and to do more amazing things, and to spark conversation and to
Mm-hmm.
encourage people. Because that's the hardest thing to wake up to every day, knowing that you're trying to make a difference, but there are obstacles that come up.
True.
But every obstacle is just something that God has put there to transition you to the next phase. So when I see obstacles, I think,
Mm-hmm.
okay, what am I to learn out of this? What are you showing me, God? What should what should I be doing? And there are times that I just sit and I listen for that voice because he told me, he said, just do what I tell you to do, say what I tell you to say. Doesn't matter if someone doesn't agree with you, that it sounds crazy to them. I'm talking to you. The mission I gave you is for you. I didn't tell 20 other people.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
to all of our family out here watching and listening, stay steadfast on your mission. Walk by sight. I'm sorry, walk by faith, not by sight, because he only gives it to you a little at a time. And I saw the bigger piece of my mission with the Triangle Society, and I see us getting closer to that. That
Okay.
our athletic program will have a turf football field and facility. He's shown me that this district is going to be restored to the glory and beyond of what it was, what we know it of as alumni receiving a great education
Yeah.
and being able to go out into the world, into our city and our state, and make a great uh, world for those coming behind us. And that's what legacy really is, you know, uh, whether it's your own personal legacy in your
True.
family or your extended family. And so I just encourage everyone, find your passion and your purpose, because whatever it is, the enjoyment you receive from doing it, I don't get a salary from being a executive director, but what I do gain is the joy, the pride, and the happiness that I see on students' faces when we are able to provide something that is much needed, that maybe their parents aren't
Hmm.
providing, or what the current school funding climate isn't providing. But when I put that instrument in their hands, when I can put a uniform on their back, to
It's awesome.
me, I'm getting 300 grand a year for the 7 years I've done this work. So I just really, really thank you for shining the light on the beautiful work that I'm personally invested in doing, and the shining the light on the organization and my board members, Ms. Harolyn Berry, Doretha Evans, both doctors, Pamela Berry Moman and Dr. Van Moman. We are just blessed to do the work that we're called to do.
I definitely doing some work out here. You kind of rolled up the last questions all in one. Like she got it.
You
You hit all
know,
the markers. Okay, I ain't mad
well,
at it.
well, after you've done this a couple of times, and campaigning is all about sharing your story, and
Hmm.
exciting, getting people excited about what you do. And if you're not excited about what you do, nobody else is going to get excited.
True. That
So
is true.
I'm
Without question.
excited. I look forward to being invited back in the future, and
Oh,
discussing
definitely.
what's the new phase of what's going to happen over at the Cooley Cardinal building, because that is my prayer and my hope, that that building is repurposed for that neighborhood, and
Yeah.
something dynamic comes out of that. That it is not torn down, and that it serves the community well.
I mean, old Guest Middle School need do something with that one. Because to me, if you're not gonna do none of these buildings, tear them down. I don't want nobody sitting there trying to attack nobody because it's just sitting
Well,
there. Y'all ain't tending to it at all.
let me say this.
Or do
I
something with it.
I went to school, and I can recall downtown the old Hudson's building closing, all those buildings now on Woodward that are open and thriving, and a
Hmm.
new building on our old site of JL Hudson's. So if God can restore that, anybody who has any doubt, just go downtown and stroll. Because those buildings have been closed for 40 plus years. They were closed when I was there.
Oh, they had a Super Bowl. They had to put curb. They like just put a rug or something over it
But I
so they
mean,
don't see it.
I, I can remember shopping down there, and Woolworths was closing, all those memories. And now we have a new downtown Detroit.
Yeah, we do.
And and new things going on around Cass Tech that the students in the future will be able to thrive. They'll be able to thrive. They'll be able to walk downtown, work downtown, walk downtown and have a job after school. So those things I look forward to. And as a aspiring board member, those are the things that I want to reconnect our neighborhood high schools to our beautiful communities that will be restored one community at a time, one block at a time.
Yeah, and every time more people can come back to the city as they stay, they'll fall in love, get married, have kids, and they look, okay, well, what school we go to? Because we're right here.
Listen.
Makes sense. I ain't trying to go, well, we right here. What we got? Well, we got to make, we got to work together, go to school meeting, because we got to get better, because
every school should be a dynamic school. And that's what it was when we were in school. You only went to an exam school if you wanted to do more or something specialized. But every school was a great school. And so for me, it's all about putting students, parents, teachers, and the community first. We put them first, pour into them, and let's watch the seeds grow as we water them.
That's true. Well, it's been a great show. I want to thank Executive Director and co-founder of Triangle Society and school board nominee for this upcoming election cycle, Monique Bryant.
I want to correct that. I'm not a nominee. I'll be a candidate. So I want to make sure be politically correct. So as a candidate, I need people to, if my story resonates with them and they want to see change, they can, certainly join me in volunteering, donating to my campaign, and most importantly, voting for me during the general election.
And that's November 5th this year, right?
5th, yes, 2024. Okay. Yes. Yep.
I look forward to seeing your name on the ballot. Like, I know that person.
That's it. I look forward to you joining the campaign and knocking on a few doors and making a few calls for me. Can I hold you to that, Jeffrey?
As long as I got time to do it, sure. That's perfect.
All right.
I got you.
My first volunteer. Thank you.
I got you. And I hope everybody enjoyed this amazing interview. Reshare it. We're doing more things. Hey, middle ground. We try to do it first class all the time. Till next time, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Good night.
Detroit raised me. Detroit's in me. Can't nothing stop me.